Welcome back to the Tech Talks Daily podcast. Now, the world of marketing is rapidly changing and businesses need to adapt to stay ahead of the curve. And with the rise of AI technology, a new marketing normal is emerging that bridges the gap between brands and their target audiences, and something much more meaningful than vanity metrics. That's what we're talking about here, because AI is being used to analyse vast amounts of data and generate insights that can inform marketing strategies to make them more effective. And by using AI, brands can create content that is highly tailored to their target audiences, which is key to building stronger relationships and driving business growth. And this is not only important now, it's going to be critical next year. We're heading towards a cookieless world, which means first-party data, zero-party data is going to be more important than ever. So I wanted to learn more about how to create meaningful content while leveraging technology, data, and experts to create content that has a strategy and purpose. And also not talk about AI replacing jobs and things like that. I want to talk about the dream team and how the combination of humans and AI can create highly tailored, scalable and effective content. But where do I find a guest that can cover all this? Well, I came across an incredible guy. His name is Thomas AI Nerd Helfrich, and he is CEO of InstantRelevant.com, where he builds trust and relevance for passionate founders, ambitious entrepreneurs and pioneering startups. Enough spoilers from me. I'm going to say buckle up and hold on tight, because it's time for me to beam your ears all the way to Atlanta, Georgia, where he's waiting to share his story, how to leverage technology, and why it's time to ditch outdated marketing KPIs and drive more of the right followers, views and likes for your brand. So, massive warm welcome to the show. Can you tell the listeners a little about who you are and what you do?
Well, thanks for having me, first of all, Neil. Thomas Helfrich in Atlanta, Georgia. Maybe was born out of the .com time. Wasn't smart enough to be like the super rich people. I think I was just a developer at the time, but quickly realized that I talk about technology better than I could code it. And so I've really stuck with that path of consultative advisory, really on the business technology side, with in particular a high focus in the last 10 years around intelligent automation, AI systems, and applied some of those principles of leveraging the right technology and the right human in the right moment to the marketing space, and specifically for the use case of where entrepreneurs or smaller marketing teams or the solopreneur, people looking to do marketing a little more effectively instead of, tire spin it. How do you leverage these technologies and how do you generate leads, which is what the whole point of marketing is. But that's where I've led it to. And, and a couple of years ago, founded a company called InstantlyRelevant.com.
And there's so much to unpack there. We're talking about marketing, entrepreneurship, artificial intelligence. You're a developer. So I've got to take you back in time.
Not a developer. Definitely not a developer. I gave that one up after year two.
But you did dabble, man. So I've got to take you back in time. Where did your passion for tech came from? Or was there a moment that put you on the path you're on today? Or should I say, what is your origin story? Everyone's got one, right?
Right. Well, I mean, that's a good point. I think the passion for tech is just, it's probably around the first, the Commodore 64, the original kind of computers that came out, and in gaming for sure. Like, I remember waiting like 2 minutes for like each scene of this game to open, this karate game, and then you'd lose and it wouldn't work. Oh, so frustrating. And so like, that gets to, coding the ball, bouncing down the stairs, and then you're kind of just into it. But that was it. There's some, moments maybe throughout, college and things like that. You have a proficiency for patterns and things like that kind of happen through class and stuff. So that's where it came out. But I actually like more about the strategy of how technology is leveraged and less of creating it, because that's way harder. Guys who do that are super smart. I'm just a talker, sir. That's all I do.
And you'd be amazed how many people I've spoke to that it all began with switching on a Commodore 64 back in the day. That machine is responsible for so much. And for you, that path would lead you to Instantly Relevant. And for people hearing about you guys for the first time, can you tell me more about the story behind the company, the problems you set out to solve with technology, and anything about what you're doing there?
Yeah, I appreciate that. We actually aim to eliminate the financial, time suck and cliche marketing world. Like we really want to think about things slightly differently, leverage technology in the background to accelerate humans to get things done quick and do it quickly and do things more effectively. But it's all human led. The mindset of the kind of people who are our customers and do well with it are typically ones of an entrepreneurship mindset, or of like the solo passionate founder, or like the startup as a group that's really looking for scale. With the angle we took was that most marketing companies, but in particular the smaller kind of the organization you are, the mid-size you are, you need a whole marketing team, but you can't afford it. So we try to find leads, we try to find customers for you, with the idea that marketing are the activities that support that. So the story being, find customers for our customers, find leads for our customers, and what marketing needs to come behind it. And what we provide for everybody is an entire marketing team, like about 13 roles, but it's less than the cost of one full-time hire.
Fantastic. And if we go back, just 6 months, it seemed that artificial intelligence and machine learning were dismissed by mainstream audiences. Anyone outside of tech didn't care. But of course, here we are now, and ChatGPT has got 100 million users in like 3 months or something. I think even TikTok took 9 months to get to that kind of figure. So as we're talking about this, can you tell me more about how AI can also be used to bridge the communications gap between brands and target audiences? Because it seems that everyone's waking up to the art of the possible now, right?
Yeah, that genie is out of the bottle. It's been out for a little while, and it's given some advantages to those of us who've leveraged it for several years now, the form of that. The interesting piece about ChatGPT, outside of being a terrible name, is that it's easy to use. And that's the biggest bridge over now, is that made it in a way that's conversational, because a human needs it conversational. So if there's any coding that was ever needed, there was ever fill all these little variables in, it didn't really work. But if you could talk to it, you could just type to it, and it could do what you want in a number of ways. That becomes useful because it's easy use. And that's where I think the biggest steps come from that. As the Vinci 3 model that it's on it's quite amazing. And it's redefining kind of what's going to happen next. Similar, the analogy I use is like, where the car kind of got rid of what horses were used for. Horses became very expensive and a luxury item for wealthy. I will tell you that I think creativity and originality of the human will still become then a very expensive thing to hire for, because it will truly be new. And I think so. If you think about, how you leverage your people in your organization or your career, or whatever you are in your season of life, creativity and originality and authentic behaviors, let's say, will be highly valued, probably more than ever, because it won't be like everything else that's out there that will be created by AI and other things. So I think keep that in mind, that humans will still lead the charge. These things will accelerate us.
And I'm glad you mentioned the name being awful there. I don't know how it's managed to do so well so quickly with such an awful name. It's almost like it's broke every rule in the book, isn't it? It
is. I mean, from a branding, it should use its own. We did this exercise with a customer the other day. We probably say to them, at least $5K for a masterclass, if not do it for you, $25K for 4 minutes, saying, write a brand tagline for this. Write the brand statement. And they're like, that looks good enough. I'm like, great, 3 minutes. We can move forward now. And I'm not kidding. It was that fast. I'm like, it just saved you guys thousands because it's like, this is good enough and we can improve from there. Yeah. But that's where technology can be leveraged. But at the end of the day, right, that doesn't help them with differentiators. It doesn't help a customer with unique selling propositions or even really knowing who their personas are. Those are things that are still human interactive, and technology can help accelerate that. But you as a human still have to come up with these things. So technology is, I think, interesting and a great tool, but it's a very powerful one, but it still definitely needs to be human-led.
100%. And there is an increasing pressure for brands to create meaningful content right now. So on that side of things, can you tell me a little bit more about how many are leveraging technology, data, and experts together to create content that has a strategy and purpose? Because there's a lot of talk at the moment about technology replacing humans, but it's not. It's putting it all in the melting pot. And the two, it's almost got a symbiotic relationship.
Yeah, it's like the singularity. But I don't believe AI actually... some jobs will go away because of advanced technology. That's always the case. But it's also always the case that, it produces way more jobs in the end. So I think the melting of how to leverage these technologies and tools in our everyday life will create more work for opportunities for others, and higher value work too, where you can leverage the more creative, original thought pieces of your brain. People are doing all kinds of crazy things, by the way, to answer your question. Anything from creating videos with where their voice is just imposed on it. So you can use AI to send messages, and you could have pre-recorded scripts and things, and it'll put together your image and video and send it, and you won't actually have to do anything, which I think is pretty cool.
Yeah.
The deep fake things of, your voice on Morgan Freeman or like whatever, like those are fun, but novel, but and scary at the same time. But just from daily posts, you can leverage it. Knowing what to say is another piece. But there's other technologies to say, here's a bunch of things that are trending. Can you can have the AI write things that are similar to it, so you can increase your followers and views. But all that being said, those are just vanity metrics. What ends up getting people to become customers is much beyond that. Like, you have to have, like, once again, a differentiating brand. You have to have a differentiating offer, something unique and a unique selling proposition. Those AI, they're not doing a ton for that, right? Like, that's still things you have to come up with. You still have to have your secret sauce, your bag of goodies. But once you have it, the technology can be leveraged pretty well to get it out, your message and your information out there much quicker.
100% with you. And as I said, if we are scrolling or doom scrolling our way down our news feeds, all we're going to see is articles around tech replacing humans because, hey, bad news sells. But can you tell me more about or expand on why we should see them as more of a dream team, and tech and humans working alongside each other, complementing rather than competing with each other?
Well, right. And I think the reason is because, if you look at some of the principles of intelligent automation, which is, it's where you automate a process with the intent to, in my opinion, to accelerate a human, not replace them. Yeah. Now, mundane, repetitive activities will get replaced, just like maybe the factory worker that was in a car, a manufacturer got replaced by robots because it can repeat it better. It can repeat the same motions. It's safer. Those types of jobs in the kind of the white collar and in the office world in back office world will likely be less and less and less. The humans will be there to deal with the more tricky things. That's where then people are going to have to get retooled, retrained, and as they come up through schools to learn how to use technologies to do different things, to unlock parts of their maybe life they didn't realize they could do well. So if you were good at executing processes all the time, imagine if you had some kind of technology that was accelerating with you and you could help run down the more complicated ones that a machine can't quite figure out yet. So I think over time, what you'll see is, mass scale available, even from I go from the healthcare side too. Eventually, like today, like if you're using AI for something that's kind of novel in the healthcare world or in the provider world, I'm thinking probably 20 years or so, it'll be demeaned as almost negligent if you're not using AI to look at your scans, or not leveraging AI to look at your data or your EHR and your health records and things like this. So I think you'll have fundamental shifts that will accelerate a lot of industries just because that's how you'll leverage the technology. And to do that, maybe I'll pause there, is that right now, you need narrow and deep use cases, but this is where the Chat GPT is very interesting because you can have it do all kinds of things. And it seems to be moving itself towards an expert in many things. But there's challenges behind that we could get into with explainability, traceability of, for example, if today someone's very smart, narrative manipulation, it's called, if they started disseminating a bunch of information just not true, and a lot of it, and if nothing's done about that, in 10 years, when you do a Google search or you're using these technologies to go look up research basis and facts, those become fact because they've been out there for 10 years and everyone's just accepted it. That's a big problem in this kind of narrative manipulation of using AI for content that we can, I'm talking too much because I'm passionate about that a bit. But the truth is, like, there's a good and a bad side. There's a yin and a yang on this that has to be kind of considered when you're leveraging these technologies beyond just for the good.
Yeah, there is an accuracy problem there at the moment. There is a problem that as soon as anybody sees anything written down, it almost becomes true. And I was experimenting with it a couple of weeks ago and I asked it to write a bio for myself. It wrote a beautiful bio. It was all very plausible. It looked amazing. Was it true? Probably not. There was a lot of it that was made up there. And we do have to question what we see and fact check and things rather than just say, create me this content and then leave it be, because you could be just flooding your site with inaccurate content. I think CNET had a blog which was just created by AI content, and they've had to revisit it because it was creating stuff that was reading great, but none of it was true. So there's a bit of responsibility there too, isn't there?
No doubt about that. It's funny you said the blog. There are some tools out there that can help you write automated comments on social media. And I've played with them over the years, and we stay away from them completely because my favorite one was in a single comment. It said that my dad was an NFL player and had died in a plane crash. And I'm like, it said, hey, my dad also was an NFL. And I'm like, how? There's a model broken there. So I was like, yeah, maybe let's turn off the automated AI comments for a little while, which you probably shouldn't do anyway, because in social media in particular, going back to the kind of the original thing I said, being authentic, being sincere, and actually caring is what's going to make people want to connect with you. It's going to what people are going to want to actually do business with you. They, people buy from them who they know, like, and trust, right? And if you're known and liked but not trusted because of kind of the stuff you put out there, then it doesn't. AI is only serves to hurt your brand and your personal image further, because you're not driving the trust you're going to need to establish the right relationships to execute business.
Yeah, completely agree with you on that. And we're looking at the moment of the economic crisis all around the world. Businesses are being forced to do more with less. So I've got to ask, is it possible to save on a marketing budget while also rapidly increasing content and engagement? Is that possible? And where should they start with that?
Yeah, I mean, well, absolutely. We do this every day. So where, let's say you have a director of marketing and a couple, other people, you're in the US, you're probably looking at least, a few $100,000 a year, right, to kind of fully in. And what we've proposed and what we try to do with our customers is, for less than a full-time hire of like a marketing manager, you'll get a full team of creators, designers, pitch decks, sales collateral, people, dialing and smiling, right? I mean, to do an outreach, to creating content management and social media. And the way you would do this in one of the most ideal situations is where you have a marketing of one, like a director of marketing who's just debating, do I do a contract or do I do this? And what I find is that you can absolutely save money and have way more power if you know how to use technology and people and labor arbitrage correctly in an offering. And when you do this, like, you get way more done. I mean, we do hundreds of posts a month. I used to be 30 hours a week in social media, and I am now about an hour. And the team helps me create hundreds of posts a month, hundreds of comments. We have a whole strategy of how you comment on other people's posts. We never ask for anything. It's all inbound. So there's a bunch of strategies you could do. You could never do with a team, because you'd be spending, a couple million a year to try to do this if you're doing full-time hires. And long-winded answer is yes, absolutely. You just have to kind of get comfortable with it. It's not maybe what you've seen before in the past.
And I would expect that as the year goes on, and Google, if they follow through with this, they're going to get rid of cookies by the end of the year. We're going to a cookieless future. First-party data, zero-party data, that's going to be more important than ever, isn't it? And engagement with audiences of people that you are connected with.
Oh, no doubt. I mean, but growing a network of relevance to what you offer is going to be super important. It's going to be tricky for individuals who've pivoted. So I've personally been through this where, a bigger consulting, advisory type of background, pivoting to more to marketing and services and things like that coming. So when you pivot, your network becomes less relevant. And so you have to rebuild that. And I personally, here in 2023, doing that right now. I've, pivoted from 10, 15 years, whatever it is, on LinkedIn to the next last 3 of like, well, the person I need to connect with is different now. So you can do this at any point. I wouldn't focus on the vanity metrics when you do these kind of pivots, but you have to have a relevant network and you have to consistently feed it. Just like your podcast, it's daily, right? You have to show up, you have to be there, you have to be real, and you have to provide value as often as you can. You're not going to get it right all the time, but you got to try.
And you mentioned 2 words there. Well, one was the vanity metrics phrase, but the other word was relevant. And I think that is so important, because a few years ago, anyone that wanted to be an influencer, whether it be a brand or an individual, they would go off and they would buy followers from some shady company somewhere, and they'd end up with 10,000 followers that were really just bots. There was zero engagement, etc. And I know this is something that's very passionate to you, because it's time to ditch those outdated marketing KPIs and drive more of a right followers, right views and likes for your brand. That's where we need to be, right? Right,
exactly. And so if your job is being an influencer, there's a strategy that's legit, not maybe the most, scrupulous, is that you go buy 1 million followers, and the idea is that your engagements are going to be terrible, your rates, but you're probably going to get 100,000 real followers out of that, because people see 1 million followers and they're just going to want to follow you. And there's a real strategy that is probably, it's kind of a fake it before you make it, but you might see it's a value and it just takes too long to grow it organically, or you don't have the money to do the ads. not what I'd suggest from the business standpoint, but like if that's what you want to do, then it's I advise. If you're really just trying to connect to the right 3,000 people, it's okay to have a network of about 3,000 people, let's say on LinkedIn or something else, because the 3,000 are relevant and they look at your posts and they engage with it. And you see this all the time. Also, as you start growing your profiles, right, you're going to get bot spammed. You're going to get spammed and followed by bots because they leverage. I don't know how they do this. I wish I was clever enough to figure it out, but I do know they leverage your profile and tag you in it because you have a network, and therefore your follower base goes up with bots you didn't really want. And so there's that. that's not much fun. But yeah, the vanity metric is important. I think a big thing people don't talk about that much is what we call executive eminence. And executive eminence is your personal brand image combined with some of your thought leadership and the corporate image or the company image you have. When you tie those together, it can raise your executive eminence. And I see this all the time with people who are trying to start a company, raise money for their company, that they don't take time to do that because they see that as something they'll do later. And I can tell you that without fail, anybody who's just starting a company and who's not exited a few times, when you start meeting investors and they even have an inkling that you're interesting, they're going to check you out. And if you don't check out, like you don't have that kind of, bravado, if you will, if you need to, you're putting yourself in a less advantaged position. I'd say it that way. Be different, differentiate yourself so you're remembered.
Yeah, completely. And for anybody listening, nodding their head in agreement, maybe you've set off a few light bulb moments in them. Is there any advice that you would leave any founders listening around how they can be more agile with their time, resources, and money? Because there's so much. I think everyone's trying to balance all of those things right now.
Yeah, you focus on. The high level is focus on revenue today and revenue tomorrow, and all the other activities don't fall in that drop. But the biggest piece is, when it comes to like doing your marketing and you're doing lead generation, do it yourself until you figured out what actually works a bit, and seek help as you've really struggled because you can't figure it out, or you found success and now you need to scale. So figure it out, play with it. Don't just hire somebody from day one. I mean, we'd love to get customers like that, but they don't work as well because they don't have a sense of where they're going with it. So if you're going to do any of those things, try it yourself for a little while. If you really are struggling, then, seek help, get some strategy, just get some alignment, get some focus, some reassurance, which is often where our conversations start, is they're just asking for advice. And I give my time quite a bit to strangers who just say, hey, listen, what do you think about this? You're on Founders Network, you're on this or that. And I'm like, yeah, here's a couple things I would do. And usually just that conversation of finding some advice is recommended. But try it yourself, because you're going to waste a lot of money if you don't. And if you do it yourself, you'll understand where you're good and you're bad and where you need to kind of add scale or outsource correctly.
So we started the podcast talking about your origin story, where you came from, the journey you've been on. I'm now going to ask you to look back and reflect upon that as we look back and ask you, is there a song that means anything to you that has inspired you, helps you get your head in the zone, that we can put on our Spotify playlist, or a book that means something to you that we can add to our Amazon wish list? All I'm going to ask is, what are you going to leave us with and why?
I will tell you this. Younger people play less games, take more time to talk to people, and listen to Pearl Jam. That's what I'd say. So just listen to the entire album. Start with 10. Work your way through. If you need a Pearl Jam starter kit, I will direct you to a Spotify list. You can text me. It's 314-954-6900. That's a US number, so +1 if you're international on WhatsApp. If you tell me you heard it on this show, I will send you the Pearl Jam starter list, or at least I'll talk to you. But I really will. I always give my phone number out. You can text me. You just got to say which podcast you came from, of course. But that I would leave you with that, with the 10 album. Start front to back and just listen. It's one of the greatest albums ever.
Awesome. A fellow Eddie Vedder man after my own heart.
Our cats are named Eddie and Vedder.
Are they really?
Yes, they are. We got them this year. I've been in the fan club since 95 or 4, whenever they kind of opened up. So I still pay my $20, get my vinyl every year. I've never opened one of them, so they're still sitting in the mail, mail piece. So they send you a B-side vinyl record every year. I have for like last 20 some years.
Man, that's phenomenal.
Yeah,
and for anyone wanting to find out more information about Instant Relevant, the kind of stuff we do, there's so many different URLs out there now. Could you just remind everyone listening where they can find you online too?
Yeah, it's instantly.relevant.com. I have most of the misspellings, but if you if you try it, instantly.relevant.com. Like I said, you can hit me on WhatsApp or text at the 314-954-6900. It's the phone I've had forever since I've lived in St. Louis. Now I live in Atlanta. I really will reply to it. That's if you took the time to get to this point in the podcast, you shall be rewarded.
I love it. And as I said, man, you scroll down your newsfeed, you're going to see nothing but doom and gloom. And I just love chatting with you today about this dream team and how the combination of human and AI can create highly tailored, scalable and effective content, but all washed down with an amazing origin story and finishing with Pearl Jam. Man, this is what podcasts are made of, man. Dreams are made of. So thank you for sharing your story with me today.
Hey, thanks for having me on. I appreciate it, Neil. You have a wonderful afternoon and best of luck to you as well.
Yes, as I said right at the beginning of the podcast, Thomas, incredibly funny guy. He reminded me a lot of, his humour reminded me a lot of Ryan Reynolds with his dry wit, but just a kind of guy I'd love to hang out with, share a few beers, talk about Pearl Jam, technology and AI and all that stuff. So, Thomas, if you are listening back to this, I hope your phone doesn't get bombarded with too many text messages about Pearl Jam. And if you are attending any tech conferences, please give me a shout and hopefully we can grab that beer. And that goes out to everybody listening too. If you would like a hot coffee or a cold beer with me and you're attending some tech conferences in the near future, give me a shout. If I'm attending one of them, I'll meet up with you, and it might feel a bit weird when I'm speaking into your ears every day then to find me talking in front of you. But hey, I love moments like that. So please, let's try and make that happen. My son is currently working in Southeast Asia right now, and we got talking about how we watch TV has completely changed, and it often feels like there's so much TV and yet nothing to watch. And that is very often caused by archaic regional settings that determine what you can and what you cannot see. So I'm currently checking out White Lotus, Severance, and I cannot get enough of The Last of Us, which is probably because of that delayed gratification thing. But I'd love to hear more about what TV shows you recommend, how you watch them, and how you access the most content possible. And after looking for a reliable VPN, I decided on Private Internet Access, which is the world's most transparent VPN provider. They have 30 million downloads, and PIA has servers in 84 countries in all 50 states. But as someone that binges my way through countless box sets, the fact that Private Internet Access works on all major streaming services so that you can access more content than ever, wherever you're located in the world, that was a big win for me. And there are also apps available for all operating systems, and one subscription can protect up to 10 devices at once. And if that's something that you're in the market for, please head to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily and get an 83% discount. Yes, that's 83%, which works out at just $2.03 a month. Plus, you get 4 extra months completely free. But to activate it, you must go to piavpn.com/techtalksdaily. One last time, piavpn.com/techtalksdaily, and let me know what TV shows you recommend by emailing me at techblogwriter@outlook.com. And if you would just like to come on the podcast, you got any questions or you'd like to add something to today's conversation, we can do that too. Email me now, techblogwriter@outlook.com, Twitter and LinkedIn at Neil C. Hughes, and my website is techblogwriter.co.uk. But let's keep this conversation going, and I'll join you again tomorrow. I've already got another guest lined up for you. So a big thank you for listening today, and until next time, don't be a stranger.